Rockabilly guitarists across the decades have shaped and reshaped the genre, each adding their own fire to its unmistakable sound. We're shining once again a light on another 10 players who deserve far more credit than they ever received. These guitarists prove that rockabilly has always been bigger than the spotlight, so turn up that slapback echo. Part 2 kicks off right now.
Ride to the mountains above, it's long. A big red rocket and roll, a big red rocket and roll.
Let's start with Jim Heath. He's one of the wildest and most technically impressive guitarists to ever come out of the rockabilly and psychobilly scene. What I love most is how he channels the raw spirit of 1950s rock and roll, but cranks it up with a punk edge that feels completely his own. Tracks like Psychobilly Freakout or Big Red Rocket of Love, his rapid picking, tremolo-driven riffs, and snarling tone push rockabilly into unfiltered territory. His stage presence is unforgettable, too. The slick Gretsch, the deadpan delivery, and the unstoppable energy that turns every show into a full-throttle experience. What makes Heath underrated is that many people write him off as just a psychobilly frontman. That's what I think, at least. But beneath the image is a guitarist with deep roots in country, blues, and classic rockabilly. For me, Jim Heath is one of the great modern keepers of the rockabilly flame. Then we have Dee Dickerson. He lives and breathes rockabilly down to its smallest detail. What stands out immediately is his deep knowledge of the music's history. He isn't just playing the style, he's preserving it. His tone, his phrasing, and even his stage presence feel rooted in the 1950s. Yet, there's always a fresh spark to everything he does. Songs like Mexican Fender Blues or his work with Echophonics show how effortlessly he moves between hillbilly bop, surf, western swing, and straight-ahead rockabilly. I love how he uses vintage gear, especially his Gretsch and Maserite guitars. It captures that unmistakable twang without sounding like a museum piece. Deke is underrated because he exists slightly outside the mainstream. Guitarists admire him, collectors adore him, but the general rock audience often misses what he brings to the table. Dickerson truly embodies the heart of modern rockabilly guitar. Junior Brown is just fascinating. He's one of the few guitarists who can bridge old school country, rockabilly, surf, and honky-tonk into something completely original. The first thing that grabs your attention is his instrument. The Git Steel, which is a hybrid guitar and lap steel that lets him switch tones instantly while performing. When you hear songs like Highway Patrol or My Wife Thinks You're Dead, you can tell how deeply he understands classic American guitar styles. His picking is sharp and precise, yet full of humor and personality. It's something rockabilly has always thrived on. What amazes me most is how he blends Chet Atkins-style finesse with the raw bite of 1950s rock and roll. Despite his technical brilliance, he's often labeled a novelty act, which I think hides just how influential he really is. Junior Brown stands as one of the most unique and underrated torchbearers of rockabilly-inspired guitar. Let me know if you agree with me.
You got tired of me, but you were supposed to be back someday.
Next up is Daryl Haim, who has always stood out to me as one of Europe's finest rockabilly stylists. Truly someone who captures the essence of 1950s guitar playing with remarkable accuracy. It is striking how naturally he channels the early pioneers, especially Eddie Cochran, without ever sounding like he's simply copying the past. His tone is crisp, punchy, and full of that classic Gretsch bite, which comes through beautifully on songs like Ghost of Your Love or his work with Imelda May. Haim understands the rhythm, the swagger, and the swing that define true rockabilly guitar. He blends it all with a confident, modern attack. He's more celebrated in specialist circles than in the mainstream rock landscape, I think. Fans who know him absolutely swear by him, yet his name rarely appears in broad discussions about great guitarists. However, Daryl Haim is one of the genre's most committed and talented ambassadors. The next guitarist has always impressed me as the guitarist who brings rockabilly spirit into modern instrumental rock. Best known for his work with Lost Straitjackets, Eddie Angel has a tone and phrasing that instantly recall the glory days of the 1950s. I love how he fuses rockabilly twang, surf swagger, and early rock and roll grit into a sound that feels both retro and fresh. Listen to tracks like Pacifica or his work with the Planet Rockers, and you hear sharp picking, deep reverb, and a rhythmic sense that never lets the groove slip. He often performs behind a mask, yet his guitar speaks louder than any image could. Despite his skill, Angel remains underrated because surf and instrumental rock don't always get the recognition they deserve, even though they are deeply tied to rockabilly's evolution. For me, Eddie Angel is one of the most versatile and stylish guitarists, keeping that classic twang alive today. Paul Pagat is someone whose talent is immediately obvious to players, even if the wider public doesn't know his name. Under the banner of Cousin Harley, he blends rockabilly, western swing, and jazz with a smoothness that feels effortless. What I admire most is his precision. Fast, but never frantic. Stylish, but never showy. Tracks like Juke Joint Johnny showcase how he takes the vocabulary of 1950s guitar and elevates it with jazz-influenced chord work and clean, articulate picking. His tone is warm and punchy, often coming from vintage-style hollow bodies that perfectly match his style. Pagat is underrated simply because he operates in a niche scene. His audience is loyal, but not massive, yet anyone who watches him play for even a minute instantly recognizes his mastery. For modern rockabilly guitar with real finesse, Paul Pagat is one of the best you can find. Billy Zoom is the guitarist who brought rockabilly technique into the world of punk rock. His work with X in the late 70s and early 80s showed that rockabilly's sharp picking, clean tone, and rhythmic drive could thrive in a completely different musical environment. What grabs me most is his stage presence, the silver hair, the wide stance, the unshakable grin, and that Gretsch guitar held perfectly still while he fires off precise, lightning-fast lines. Songs like Johnny Hit and Run Pauline or Los Angeles aren't rockabilly in the traditional sense, but his playing draws heavily from Scotty Moore and Cliff Gallup. I consider Zoom underrated because his contribution is often overlooked. People remember X for their vocals and lyrics, yet his guitar work gave the band its unique edge. For me, Billy Zoom is proof that rockabilly technique can adapt, evolve, and still command the spotlight. I think Dave Gonzalez is one of the great understated guitarists of the American roots revival. With the Paladins, he blended blues, swing, country, and rockabilly into a gritty, high-energy sound that felt both timeless and modern. His rhythm work is thick, punchy, and driving, and is paired with sharp, melodic solos that never feel out of place. Tracks like Keep Loving Me Baby or Look What You're Doing show how he channels the essence of classic rockabilly without ever losing his bluesy toughness. Gonzalez plays with a soulful intensity, often using a Telecaster or hollow body that cuts right through the mix. I think he's underrated because his band stayed mostly underground. Critics praised him, but mainstream audiences never caught on. Dave Gonzalez represents the hard-working, road-tested spirit of rockabilly guitar, raw, heartfelt, and always authentic. HANK GARLAND has always amazed me for his ability to move effortlessly between country, jazz, and the earliest forms of rockabilly. Although many fans know him as a Nashville session legend, his guitar work on early rock and roll recordings had a massive influence on the developing rockabilly sound. I highly admire the sophistication he brought to the genre. Clean lines, sharp phrasing, and a jazz-influenced sense of harmony that felt far ahead of its time. His work with Elvis Presley, Brenda Lee, and Patsy Cline shows how versatile he truly was. Listen closely to his tone, which is warm, articulate, and full of character. You'll hear how he shaped the transition from country picking to rockabilly bite. Garland is underrated mainly because session musicians rarely get the spotlight, even when they define entire eras. HANK GARLAND remains one of the quiet architects of rockabilly guitar. Last one in this second video dedicated to rockabilly guitarists is Danny Gatton. He's one of the most technically gifted guitarists to ever touch a Telecaster. It is just fascinating how he fused rockabilly with jazz, blues, R&B, and country into a style that was completely unique. His work with Robert Gordon shows his rockabilly roots clearly. Sharp phrasing, fast picking, and that unmistakable twang. But when you explore albums like 88 Elmira Street, you hear just how wide his influences stretched. Gatton often used hybrid picking and behind the nut bends, techniques that gave his playing a fire and fluidity rarely matched. Despite his incredible skill, he never became a mainstream figure, which is why so many guitarists refer to him as the world's greatest unknown guitarist. For me, Danny Gatton represents the boundary-pushing edge of rockabilly guitar, showing how far the style can go when placed in the hands of a true innovator. That's it! Those were 10 more rockabilly guitarists who kept the genre alive, loud and evolving across the decades. If you enjoyed discovering these underrated players, let me know in the comments. Tell me who deserves a spot in part 3. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep that rockabilly twang alive.